Whenever you're ready.
How do you define a hero? Joseph Campbell was a mythologist who started writing his works in the 30s and 40s of the past century, and he defined a hero in his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces, in the introduction as, "A hero ventures forth from the world of common day into a region of supernatural wonder. Fabulous forces are there encountered, and a decisive victory is won. The hero comes back from this mysterious adventure with the power to bestow boons on his fellow man." Joseph Campbell developed this theory called the monomyth that encompasses most plots in fiction, wherein a hero goes through certain adventures and comes back, and it follows this basic three-arc structure. The first act being the departure, the second being the initiation, and the last being the return. He developed this work, or this theory, while researching classical myths from many different cultures. He's what's known as a comparative mythologist. And he determined that this structure existed in a lot of stories, especially the big parables type stories of Buddha, of Jesus, of Prometheus, and the Greek myths. And he looked at this and he drew up the structure, and he saw that people were using it in modern fiction as well, and it just seemed to be very, very worldwide, very universal. Especially the ancient works like the Odyssey, he saw parallels with that and the works that were being produced in his own time. And modern works draw heavily from his theories, especially those of George Lucas, who actually said specifically that he used Joseph Campbell's theories to develop his trilogy Star Wars. As a classics major here at FSU, this is an area of big interest for me. I'm very interested in how the myths throughout the world compare to each other and how they all have a lot of elements in common despite being thousands of miles apart. So first I will explain to you what the monomyth entails and what the structure actually involves, and then how that is visible in ancient works like the Odyssey as well as in modern works like Star Wars. So how do we get from the epics of ancient Greece to the story of a simple farm boy from remote Tatooine? Well, the monomyth, as I said, has a three-act structure. The first act is usually the departure, in which the hero is called to adventure. He is called by someone or something to come out and do something amazing. Usually there are supernatural elements involved, but a lot of the time he will actually, or she, they're often women heroes, will refuse the call and decide, no, this isn't for me, I don't want to go out and do anything crazy, I just want to stay at home and farm or whatever. And that usually doesn't go very well. You can't refuse the call to adventure. You're just not allowed to. It doesn't work that way. And there are a lot of examples of times when if you refuse the call, bad things will happen to you. But once the hero actually decides to go ahead and depart and be on this adventure, he receives a lot of supernatural aid. Usually there'll be some sort of mentor figure, or he'll receive some sort of assistance from a goddess type figure. And he has to cross the first threshold into the world of adventure. And then he has this experience that is usually referred to as the belly of the whale, where he has to actually depart from the world and be in a different world, like the spirit world or the underworld, in order to complete some task and actually be fully initiated into the world of adventure. Now, in the initiation, there's the road of trials, where you have tasks you have to complete. A lot of the times these come in threes, 3 being a very special number in mythology. He meets a lot of people. Usually there are a lot of women figures where there'll be a woman who functions as a temptress and tries to stray him from his path and not complete his duty. He also has to sometimes atone with a father or parental figure so that he can complete his task. And then he is able to achieve the ultimate boon, which is the completion of his quest, and usually involves some sort of extra power that he will acquire. And then in the return, a lot of the time he will also refuse to return because now he's happy being in the world of adventure and it's wonderful. But he can't stay, he has to go back. And usually either there's some sort of magical flight wherein he will use his new powers to get back to the old world, or they will be rescued from without, where someone from the old world will actually have to come back and bring him back to his original world. And he crosses the return threshold and he's able to be a master of both worlds in a sense, in that he has these new abilities which allow him to conquer the things that he couldn't conquer in his previous life, and he can cross back and forth sometimes between the world of adventure and the regular world. So, Campbell developed this structure based on ancient works like the Odyssey. The Odyssey is a good example of this in that Homer's works used a lot of these archetypes, although in the Odyssey we start in media res, which is in the middle of things. So we actually kind of skip the departure point in the Odyssey because he's already been gone. Really the departure point comes in the Iliad, which is the separate work. So in the Odyssey, his quest is to return home, and he has to complete a lot of trials in order to actually return home to his wife and his son. And he has to avoid temptation at a number of places. There are goddesses and various islands of wonderful things that he has to just completely ignore because his duty is to get home. And he has to defeat many monsters, and he actually has to travel to the underworld in order to figure out exactly how he can get home. He speaks with a prophet who functions kind of as a mentor figure and also as supernatural aid to him. And Odysseus also has a great deal of aid from the gods in general, especially Athena, who seems really intent on him getting home because he's her favorite. So, but what does this have to do with modern fiction? Well, I'm sure you're all very familiar with the two Star Wars trilogies. They're very well known for works of modern fiction, and George Lucas took a lot of his ideas from Joseph Campbell's theories. So they're very, very archetypal examples. In the original trilogy, we see Luke as he's actually called to adventure by the image of Princess Leia in R2-D2. And at first, he doesn't want to do it. He's just completely like, no, this isn't my thing. I have responsibilities and duties here. But his refusal is met with some unfortunate actions from the other characters in the series, in that his aunt and uncle are actually murdered. So now he has no excuse and he has to go. So that's what happens when you refuse the call to adventure. And then he has to undergo a series of trials in his initiation as a hero. He has to learn to become a Jedi Knight. He works with Obi-Wan Kenobi to develop his powers, and later with Yoda as well. And he has to fight with his father a few times. And he has to rescue Princess Leia, and he has to do all of these other things. Because the point of the hero's journey is to go through these trials and become a better person when you're done. And so when he finally gets through all of these trials and masters the Force, he becomes the master of two worlds, in that he has these new abilities, but he still has his old life to some extent because he is still that farm boy from Tatooine. So, in conclusion, Joseph Campbell's monomyth theory is very relevant to modern works of fiction as well as the ancient works that he developed it from. You can see the archetypes and the stereotypes in works like the Odyssey, where there is a main hero and he has to undergo these certain experiences in order to finish his quest, and it functions in a very strict sort of pattern. And there are a lot of modern works of fiction that function in the same way, such as Star Wars and lots of others that you couldn't even list them all. So to close, let me give you another quote by Joseph Campbell regarding his theories on heroes. A hero is someone who has given his or her life to something bigger than oneself.